Hey everyone, it's Aaron. What a crazy week in crypto, all because of Elon Musk's singular tweet that said Tesla will no longer accept Bitcoin as a form of payment. And this was so tough for all of us because he just announced that they would take it in February, and that sent crypto through the roof. And now, like, just kidding, they take it away and crypto plummets. So in this video, I'm going to show you not only the destruction that movement caused and the potential reasons why people freaked out, but I'm also going to the long-term strategy as to why Elon decided to cancel Bitcoin for Tesla. I think there's a longer-term issue here, and he's actually trying to save Tesla financially because there's a lot of headwinds that they're coming up against, and there's a lot of stuff that the market is growing impatient on. So go ahead and smash that like button. And when you do, it allows YouTube to share this content with people who want to be more educated about finance, crypto, and the markets, but also specifically these individuals like Elon who have a power in their voice to sway the crypto market so easily. So when you hit that like button, I'd love to tell you more about why I think Tesla is on the ropes and they're going to do something, a Hail Mary pass to save it all. All right, let's take a look at the announcement that Elon tweeted that caused all this ruckus. So first it says, Tesla has suspended vehicle purchases using Bitcoin. They're concerned about rapidly increased use of fossil fuels for Bitcoin mining and transactions, especially coal, which has the worst emissions of any fuel. And cryptocurrency is a good idea at many levels, and we believe it has a promising future, but we cannot come at a great cost to the environment. You know, Tesla is a green company, and so now that suddenly they've realized that holding Bitcoin on their balance sheet and accepting it compromises the image of them being green. Tesla will not be selling any Bitcoin, and we intend to use it for transaction as soon as mining transitions to more sustainable energy. And they're also looking for other cryptocurrencies that use less than 1% of Bitcoin's energy and transaction. What does this mean? It means that they suddenly had a head fake when they realized, oh, Bitcoin is potentially harmful to the environment due to the mining resources that it takes. So suddenly they made a decision that we shouldn't do this. But the weird thing to me is, how could they not know to begin with? Elon Musk is not just one of the smartest people on the planet or potentially ever. He is an innovator. He is leading the future. He's the one who's telling us what the future looks like. And so when it comes to Bitcoin, I'm sure he knows. So how did he not know, or did he not care in the beginning? That's the very interesting question. Or maybe he didn't do research and he just said, hey, Bitcoin's super cool. Maybe he owned it personally and he thought it'd be really interesting and would fit with the brand of Tesla to accept it for purchases. You know, an electric car company accepts an electronic form of money. Wouldn't the customers like that? How cool would that be? Because Elon does have kind of an eye for aesthetic and an eye for things being cool. But then perhaps maybe a board member got to him and said, you know, listen, this has environmental implications that go against our company ethos. I'm going to get more into that in a second, but let's look at the damage that happened right when this tweet came out. Okay, let's take a look at the chart and how bad the drop was. So as you can see here, there was already kind of a tough day for Bitcoin. But then right towards the end of the day, right around the $55,000 level, Elon tweeted it, and that sent Bitcoin plummeting. An intraday low was hit of $46,000, and then it kind of settled around the $51,000 mark. But still, completely insane drop. You know, it was already a volatile currency that was coming off its highs at 65,000, and then boom, he just sends it even lower. So why does Elon Musk announcing that Tesla will not accept Bitcoin as a form of payment send the cryptocurrency down so much so fast? I think three things. Number one, it does kind of call into question, is Bitcoin a viable form of payment? One of the core tenets that it's supposed to be. And a lot that the kind of OG crypto people say it totally is, and this is why we can continue supporting it. But sort of the mainstream finance has been slowly coming around to adopting, and they're just kind of getting there, like maybe it is, but then this is potentially going to reverse that course. Second, the fact that Tesla was a pioneering company in adopting Bitcoin to its balance sheet. Yes, Michael Saylor at MicroStrategy was one of the more original people to do it, and a few other companies, but Tesla is probably the biggest name, one of the largest companies to do it. And so that would be an invitation paving a way for more traditional, more conservative companies to buy Bitcoin and store in their treasury as a cash equivalent. But now those companies are definitely going to be taking a pause, and that means less institutional buying and support for the cryptocurrency because it's so volatile and they don't want a cash equivalent to suddenly be dropping 20% overnight. So let's talk about the announcement specifically. First of all, it's a screenshot. Elon typically types things out, and so it almost makes it seem to me that it definitely was coming from an external party, like the board. He was told that, hey, this is something we should do. But then that calls into another question. Elon doesn't bend to anybody. He does exactly what he wants. And so, he bends laws, securities laws, the laws of physics, and most of all, humanity's perception of change. He's seemingly immune to risk and change, which is one of the great things that makes him an entrepreneur, but it also causes a lot of discomfort along the way for those around him. And now all of us, people are following him from an investment perspective, and, for those of us that choose to invest in crypto based on his tweets. So it's really important to know that Elon moves quickly and he makes a lot of decisions on the fly despite the consequences for those immediately around him. And he's willing to fight to keep a company alive. He's willing to fight to make progress very rapidly. Because I think he always feels that he's always on the edge of some type of failure. There's always a potential rocket failure. Aerospace is hard with Tesla. The company's been on the ropes financially and very close to bankruptcy in the past. And so he's always pushing to stay ahead of any potential risk that could take his company down. So I think this is a natural movement for him. But as an example, when I used to work at SpaceX, there was an email that went out company-wide on a Friday afternoon right around 4 o'clock that said, if your car is parked in a certain parking lot, it needs to be moved by 7 p.m. or else it will be towed. Why? Because the Boring Company had decided that's where they're going to drill their inaugural tunnel in time for that Sunday's inaugural showing to the LA mayor. So it had to be ready to go, and they wanted to take quick action. So that's Elon. He moves quickly, and it causes inconveniences that ripple out, to employees, to people who maybe parked in certain areas, but also to investors. And it's tough. So I think the key thing is, I'm not here necessarily to be an Elon apologist. He causes a lot of trouble, and it's tough for people to deal with that sometimes. But I think the important thing is know that if Elon's involved in something, it's going to be volatile. It's going to be fast moving, and it could be exciting, but it also could be heartbreaking at the same time. So it's important to understand what it is before you engage with it. I think that's the key thing. I also want to talk about another concept. I think Elon may have just proven that at this current juncture, Bitcoin is not actually decentralized. He himself has tweeted about that from a mining perspective. There was a miner in China that had to be shut down and evacuated due to a flood, and that took out a large capacity of the Bitcoin network for computational power. And so he even made the joke himself, decentralized. But I would actually make the bigger argument that because of him or somebody like him, Bitcoin is not decentralized because one figure can sway the price so much. Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies were designed to be decentralized so that no one individual, government, or institution, or any other type of entity could have singular control over it, much like, say, in the US, the Federal Reserve does with our money supply. Every time Jerome Powell, the Fed chairman, says anything about money supply, markets, interest rates, it moves the stock market, it moves interest rates, it moves US dollar. So, people parse the Fed minutes just like, they're looking for a clue. And we're doing the same thing with Elon's tweets. We're parsing word by word to get a sense of where he thinks or what he's going to do regarding crypto. And case in point, take a look at this other tweet that came out just on Sunday where somebody was kind of lamenting that, hey, it's been a rough ride in the social media sphere for Elon after this big decision. He's been catching a lot of flack. No wonder that there's a possibility he might sell. And he just responded, indeed. And that sent Bitcoin down even further because now people were speculating, oh my God, does Tesla sell their whole position? And then Elon had to come out after that and clarify, no, Tesla didn't sell. But I think people were still pretty rattled because it's like, What if they sell anyway at some point in the future? Is this kind of like high school social dynamics? Did somebody who is cool come into the party and then the party pushed him away because he had radical views, because he did something different? And again, I'm not saying that what he did was super cool to do. I mean, it's tough to be like, hey, in February, we're accepting Bitcoin. Everybody come on board. And then he's like, just kidding. No, we're not. We're leaving now. And then everyone gets hosed on their investment. But I wonder, is this a crucial moment for Bitcoin in its history where, if this adoption from institutions and companies and also influential thought leaders like Elon don't get on board with it, then can it continue? But decentralized or not, I will say Elon is the one who is the futurist here. He is the one who's the innovator. So it still is baffling how he either A, didn't know, or B, failed to recognize that it would be something that would conflict with Tesla's board. But maybe it goes back to Elon just does what he wants and didn't think it would be a problem, and maybe a board member was able to influence him or sway him that would be a good idea to relinquish Bitcoin as a form of payment. Other than that, I'm not sure. But here's why I think they actually made the decision, because I think there's a bigger opportunity for Tesla and they didn't want Bitcoin to compromise it. So here's the bigger reason. For years, Tesla has made additional money from selling credits, carbon credits, basically. These are regulatory credits that they are given for free because they're an electric vehicle manufacturer and they make no fossil fuel, no polluting vehicles. So states in the US and governments of countries around the world give Tesla these regulatory credits for free, and then they in turn sell those at 100% profit margin to traditional legacy automakers so that they can meet environmental standards set by their local states or country governments. And so this has been a huge line of business for Tesla, and they've used it just in the most recent quarter to make quarterly earnings along with their sale of Bitcoin. So there's kind of two things happening here. Tesla has beat numbers on certain quarters, not by producing cars, they would have actually lost money in a certain quarter, but because of regulatory credit sales. And then in this most recent quarter, they sold a little over $100 million of Bitcoin that they registered as a profit. So look, it's very creative, it's very innovative, but it's also something that is, a lot of people question how sustainable it is. Because you remove those one-time events, it's kind of based on, I would say, luck in a sense regarding the Bitcoin sale. And then the regulatory environment is actually not going to continue for them at the same pace. And why is that? Why will the regulatory credit market not be in Tesla's favor as a tailwind going forward? Because with things like the Green New Deal, which wants net zero carbon emissions by 2030 put forward by the Biden administration, or even states like California, which say no fossil fuel vehicles will be sold in the state starting in 2035. This is forcing all the traditional legacy automakers to go hard in the paint on making more electric vehicles. And the more electric vehicles they make, which changes their portfolio mix of fossil fuel to electric vehicles, they will actually need to buy less credits from Tesla. So to review, Tesla sells their regulatory credits to traditional automakers. So it's very weird for those companies to have to give Tesla, their competitor, a bunch of money. And one company, the former corporate conglomerate Fiat Chrysler Automotive, which is now called Stellantis, they had to pay Tesla a lot of money over the last few years, but they just announced that they're no longer going to be partnering with Tesla to buy their regulatory credits in Europe, because they're going to start making their own electric vehicles, and so it's going to help them generate their own credits for, in essence, for free. So what does this mean? This means that Tesla's regulatory credit market is at risk. And it's what, in the last quarter, the stock beat earnings. But again, that was because of regulatory credit sales and also the Bitcoin profit. But the point is, the stock beat the numbers, but it still went down because people were looking at that regulatory credit market and questioning its viability and sustainability at scale in the future. So basically, as more of these companies are making their own electric vehicles to meet environmental guidelines, Tesla won't be the only game in town. And so they can't sell their greenness to these other companies so easily. So what happens? They have to create a new customer. But here's the thing. If they're using these sort of last minute things like buying Bitcoin and selling a portion of it to make quarterly numbers the last second, why would Elon basically shoot against himself? Because he knew that this tweet would have to torpedo the entire crypto market. And they hold a lot of crypto, but why would you shoot against yourself? And the thing that you want to sell to create a profit the last second sometimes to maybe save the quarter, that opportunity goes away if you tank that asset, that price. So I think the reason is Tesla actually views the opportunity to create a new regulatory credit customer as the bigger opportunity. So what does creating that new customer mean to Tesla? It means entering the EPA's biogas market. Yes, right around the time that Elon announced that Tesla would not accept Bitcoin anymore, Tesla applied to the EPA's biogas fuel program as to be a regulatory credit provider. They can use their network of charging network of superchargers to then create credits to sell to power companies and oil refineries. So as we can see here, this is the announcement that Tesla has applied to enter the multi-billion-dollar US renewable energy credit market. And the program is currently dominated by ethanol producers. But the White House is expected to include EV makers soon. And the move would anger oil refining companies which need to buy the credits from Tesla. Ooh, burn, no pun intended. But Tesla is seeking to enter the multi-billion-dollar US renewable credit market, hoping to profit from the Biden administration's march towards new zero emission goals. The electric car maker is one of at least 8 companies with a pending application at the EPA tied to power generation and renewable credits. So Tesla's entry could potentially reshape the renewable credit market, which was established in the mid-2000s to boost investment in the U.S. biofuel industry. The market generated some $18 billion credits in 2020 and is currently dominated by ethanol producers. Tesla's application would likely be tied to the production of electricity associated with biogas. Now, what does Tesla have to do with biogas? It doesn't make any sense at first, but we see this article from back in early April. Exclusive: White House asks EPA to study how EVs can generate renewable fuel credits. So the White House has directed the EPA to study how using renewable fuels to power electric vehicle charging could generate tradable credits under the nation's biofuels program. So that's they want to augment that existing program to include using biofuels to power electric vehicle charging stations. But again, this is where Tesla has another advantage. In their supercharger network, they have the ability to put what used to be Solar City panels on the rooftops of the charging stations. So you're basically creating a clean loop from sun to roof to charging station to car battery. And so that's an area where they would again be able to get those credits. I imagine if this is the program, it's going to work similar to how the automotive one is. They're going to get credits free and clear and be able to sell them at 100% profit margin to those polluters of like power companies and oil refiners. So again, huge market, huge opportunity, and again, not something that Elon wanted to compromise, I think, by holding Bitcoin or accepting it as a payment. And we know that Tesla really wants into this market even back in April, because it says here, one source told Reuters that Tesla, which produces both cars and charging stations, has been lobbying the Biden administration to ensure it can generate and sell credits if the new plan gets off the ground. So they saw this opportunity and they're trying to help create it, and I think they should. If they can pull this off, it's actually a brilliant strategy, and it could really open up a new line of revenue to not only replace what's been lost and will probably continue to be lost from the automotive credit market, but also maybe even go higher, maybe make more money, because this is an $18 billion market currently. And one has to imagine it's probably going to increase just given all the environmental compliance that's coming down the pipeline in not only in the US, but in other countries. So if Tesla can get in there and make it such that they're going to be a significant player in being able to sell these types of credits, then, oh my gosh, that could, save the day for Tesla. Because if they don't, their regulatory credit market sales for the automotive space are going to decline over time as those traditional automakers increase the percentage of electric vehicles in their portfolio. So this is kind of the only way out as the doors are closing, with the market becoming more impatient of Tesla not making its numbers due purely to automotive sales and making profit on the cars. Now, in the latest sign that the market is losing patience with Tesla using regulatory credit sales to juice their own numbers is Michael Burry, the famed investor who called the housing crash in 2008 and profited huge off of it. He was also depicted by Christian Bale in the movie The Big Short. So now check this out. He just announced a $530 million short position against Tesla stock. And he's did it sometime in March, we assume, based on regulatory filings. But according to the CNBC article, is where I got this information. And so he's initiated a $530 million bet against Tesla. Why? Because he tweeted, and then later deleted it, but he tweeted that Tesla's reliance on regulatory credits to generate profits is a red flag. And so I think Elon's well aware of this, and he sees that companies like Stellantis are pulling out of their agreements with Tesla because they're going to make their own electric cars. So the fun money is coming to an end. So he has to replace it somehow. And that's where entering into a new regulatory credit program or market is going to be beneficial. So good for them, but boy, what a costly pivot for all of us retail investors. So as I mentioned earlier, Elon is always fighting to keep the company alive, always fighting to keep the wolves at bay, to make progress. And I think they canceled Bitcoin because they don't want that application with the EPA to be compromised at all. They don't want Bitcoin, taking Bitcoin as a form of payment. They don't want the EPA to say, well, you won't be able to make this program, because you're inherently still some type of polluter. And look, I will acknowledge this is kind of a long shot theory, but deciphering Elon's tweets is difficult, and it's so not always immediately clear what his long-term strategy is until he reveals it. But I think in order to get ahead of it, this I think is the best possible link as to why he did it, because otherwise he was just toying with us the whole time. And so I would like to believe that he has some type of intention, and he just doesn't communicate it, either due to he's not really high on EQ and wanting to communicate with people, but also he's involved in a lot of stuff that he can't say. So between those two, I would imagine it's probably this one, something like that he's looking for a bigger angle to save the company's revenue streams of the regulatory credit markets, and he's looking to get into a new area. So those are my thoughts on why I think Elon canceled Bitcoin for Tesla, because he wants that EPA application to make it through to save the company. So if you love analysis like this, then I'd love to keep doing it for you. So go ahead, smash that like button, and help this channel grow, and I can continue to give you guys more of this content. I'd really appreciate you joining me on this journey, and if you really feel it, then please subscribe, and until next time, have a great week.